You know that moment when you're stopped dead in your tracks by an image, maybe a painting or photograph, even just a striking ad, and you just feel its power,
Oh, definitely.
but you can't quite put your finger on why it works. Or, you look at another one and it just falls flat.
Right.
And you wish you knew the secret language behind it all. Well, today, we're trying to unlock that very language. We're pulling back the curtain.
That's it exactly. Every piece of really compelling visual art, it isn't just like random magic. It's deliberate. It's a construction
Uh-huh.
built from these fundamental bits. Artists call them the elements of art, and then arranged using specific guidelines, the principles of design.
Like ingredients in a recipe.
Precisely. Think of them as the basic ingredients and the master recipe artists use to bring their vision to life.
Okay, so for this deep dive, we've gathered a pretty amazing stack of sources. We've got really practical stuff like guides on mixing colors, making patterns,
Yeah, hands-on things.
all the way to, deeper explorations of the theory behind it all.
Our goal today really is to give you the vocabulary, the understanding to decode the visual world around you.
So you can see why something grabs you.
Exactly. You'll get a shortcut to appreciating why certain artworks resonate,
Yeah.
how artists actually communicate complex ideas visually, and maybe even, look at your own creative work with a fresh perspective.
Okay, let's dive in. Where do we start? Maybe with the most sort of primal ingredient, color.
Perfect starting point. Color is huge. Our sources really hit on its power, both physically how light works and psychologically how it makes us feel.
But before we get all philosophical, let's cover the basics. How do artists actually get these colors on the canvas? How do they make them?
Right. Well, it all starts with what we call the primary colors, usually red, yellow, and blue,
The big three.
the big three. And what's really crucial about them, and maybe the most basic thing to grasp, is that you can't make them by mixing other colors. They're elemental.
Irreducible.
Yes, exactly. They're the absolute starting point for almost every other color you can imagine.
Okay, so then the magic happens when you mix them, right? That's where secondary colors come in.
Spot on. Mix red and blue, you get purple. Red and yellow gives you orange. Yellow and blue mix green. It's a fundamental color theory 101, really.
Yeah. And one of our practical sources had a great tip. Always use a clean, dry brush between colors. Seems obvious, but...
Oh, it makes a huge difference. Prevents muddy colors.
Yeah, and using old yogurt lids or whatever as palettes, if you're using Tempur paint, easy cleanup.
Good tip. And then you can expand that palette even more by adding white or black.
Ah, tints and shades.
Exactly. Adding white gives you a tint. It lightens the color, often makes it feel, I don't know, softer, prettier, perhaps.
Okay.
And adding black creates a shade, makes the color deeper, more intense, sometimes a bit more somber.
Is there a trick to using black? I feel like I always mess that up.
Yeah, there's definitely an art to it. One source warned about starting with just a tiny, tiny dot. Black can easily overwhelm, especially lighter colors like yellow. It can just turn muddy really fast.
Right, okay. Good to know. So color's clearly a major ingredient.
Yeah.
But what else is in that foundational toolkit? What are the other essential building blocks?
Okay, so think of these next ones as the components you literally see in an artwork. Each one carries its own kind of expressive weight. First up, line. Essentially, it's just a mark with length and direction. Sounds simple, right? Like one teacher described it as a dot that went for a walk.
Oh, I like that.
But lines are incredibly versatile. They define edges, create boundaries, guide your eye.
Yeah.
But more than that, the character of the line speaks volumes. A jagged line might feel like energy or anger. A soft, curvy line could suggest calm or grace.
And thickness matters too, like bold lines versus thin ones.
Absolutely. Varying line weight adds interest, emphasizes things, and there's this really interesting practice called blind contour drawing.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that, where you don't look at the paper.
Exactly. You force yourself to just look at the subject. The results are often kind of goofy, honestly, but it dramatically improves your observation skills, your spatial awareness. It really connects your eye to your hand.
Okay, so lines. What's next?
Shape. When a line curves around and meets itself, it encloses an area. That's a shape. It's flat, two-dimensional height and width.
Like squares, circles.
Right. Those are geometric shapes, precise, often man-made. Or shapes can be organic, more free-flowing, natural, irregular. I think clouds, leaves, even just, blobby shapes.
And artists use these deliberately.
Oh, absolutely. Think about Picasso in his Cubist phase, like in the painting Three Musicians. He famously broke down figures into these simpler geometric shapes. It wasn't just for looks, it was about showing multiple viewpoints at once.
Right, smashing things into planes. Okay, so shapes are flat, but art often looks solid, like it has depth. How do artists pull off that trick?
That's where form comes in. Form is shape taken into the third dimension. It has height, width, and depth.
So a circle is a shape, a sphere is a form.
Exactly. And artists create the illusion of form on a flat surface, like a canvas or paper, mainly through shading, using light and shadow.
Okay.
Think about Michelangelo's sculpture of David. It's not just an outline, it's a masterpiece of form. You feel the volume, the three-dimensionality, because of how light and shadow play across the marble.
So light and shadow. That brings us to value, doesn't it?
Precisely. Value is all about the lightness or darkness of a color or tone. It's the scale from pure white to deep black with all the grays in between.
And this is key for that 3D look.
Absolutely crucial. A full range of values, from the brightest highlights to the darkest shadows, is what makes a flat image look realistic, volumetric. And it hugely impacts the mood.
How so?
Well, lots of light values might feel cheerful, airy. Lots of dark values can feel mysterious, dramatic, heavy. Think about Da Vinci's Mona Lisa. Those incredibly subtle shifts in value, especially around her mouth and eyes, create that enigmatic quality, that sense of a living presence.
It's amazing how these technical things create such emotional responses. It really is like a language.
It absolutely is. And another element that speaks volumes, sometimes without us even realizing it, is texture.
How things feel. Or look like they feel.
Both. There's actual texture, the physical surface, like thick paint, impasto, where you can literally feel the bumps and ridges, or the smoothness of polished stone.
Okay.
But then there's implied or visual texture. That's where the artist uses lines, dots, patterns, brushstrokes to suggest how something would feel, making something look rough or smooth or fuzzy or metallic, even though the surface itself is flat.
Like drawing fur on an animal.
Exactly. Or think of Van Gogh's The Starry Night. Those thick, swirling strokes aren't just color. They create this incredible tactile energy. You almost feel the movement in the sky.
Yeah, you really do. Okay, one more element, right? Space.
Right, space.
Yeah.
This refers to the area around, between, and within the objects in a piece. It's fundamental for creating depth, a sense of place.
So like perspective, things getting smaller in the distance.
That's part of creating deep space, yeah, where things recede, giving a sense of vastness. But you can also have shallow space, where everything feels close to the surface, more flattened.
Okay.
And then there's the concept of positive and negative space.
I've heard those terms. Positive is the main thing, right? The subject.
Usually, yes.
Yeah.
The main focus, the object, and negative space is the area around and between them, the background, the gaps. But it's not just empty.
What do you mean?
Well, skilled artists use negative space just as deliberately as positive space. It helps define the positive shapes, creates balance. Sometimes it even forms its own interesting shapes. The classic example is the FedEx logo.
Oh, the arrow.
Exactly. That hidden arrow between the E and the X, that's pure negative space being used cleverly to imply movement, speed. It's brilliant design.
That is clever.
Okay.
Okay, so those are the elements, the ingredients, like you said. Line, shape, form, value, texture, space, and color.
Got it. Yep, those are the building blocks.
But just having the ingredients doesn't guarantee a masterpiece.
Right.
You mentioned a recipe, the principles of design.
Exactly. Simply having the elements isn't enough. The principles are the guidelines, the strategies for how artists organize and arrange those elements, how they put it all together to create something that works, something cohesive, compelling, visually satisfying.
Okay, so this is the how-to part.
Sort of. It's how the elements interact to create meaning, mood, impact. Let's go through some key ones. Think about how they make you feel when you look at something.
All right.
First up, balance. This is about distributing visual weight, making sure no single part of the artwork feels too heavy or too empty or just neglected. It gives a sense of stability, order.
Like it feels right.
Yeah, grounded. And there are different kinds. Symmetrical balance is like a mirror image. Same or very similar on both sides of a central axis.
Like a butterfly's wings.
Perfect example. It often feels calm, formal, maybe even a bit static sometimes, but very stable. Then there's asymmetrical balance. This is where the two sides are different, but they still feel like they have equal visual weight. It's trickier to achieve.
How does that work?
Maybe one large object on one side is balanced by several smaller objects on the other, or a dark shape balanced by a larger area of light color. It feels more dynamic, more informal, often more interesting than perfect symmetry, like a crashing wave balanced by empty sky.
Ah, I see. It's not identical, but it feels settled.
Exactly. And then there's radial balance, where elements radiate out from a central point. Think spokes on a wheel, ripples in a pond, a daisy.
Gotcha. So balance provides stability. What about excitement, making things pop?
That's where contrast comes in, big time. Contrast is all about using differences to create visual interest and draw your eye.
Differences in what?
Could be anything.
Yeah.
Sharp changes in value, light against dark, differences in color, warm colors next to cool colors, or complementary colors like blue and orange placed side by side. They make each other look way brighter. Or contrast in texture, rough against smooth. Contrast in shape, geometric against organic, simple against complex. It stops things from being monotonous. It highlights what's important.
So balance and contrast work together.
Absolutely. It's a key relationship. Balance gives you that underlying structure, that stability. Contrast provides the spark, the visual energy, the focus. You need both for something to be, cohesive but also lively. Think about dramatic black and white photos. Pure value contrast.
Okay. So if contrast helps draw the eye, how do artists make sure we look at the most important part first?
That's emphasis. It's all about creating a focal point, the spot your eye lands on immediately.
How do they do that?
Lots of ways. Using a really bright or contrasting color for one element, making one thing significantly larger than everything else, placing the key subject right in the center or maybe off by itself, adding much more detail to one area compared to the rest.
So it stands out.
Right. Emphasis makes the artist's main point, or the most important part of the story, really clear, unmistakable.
So emphasis grabs you. But then how does the artwork lead you around, keep your eye moving?
Good question. That's movement. And we're not talking about like animation. It's about how the artist arranges the elements, lines, shapes, colors to create a visual path for your eye.
A pathway.
How? Think about a curved line naturally leading your eye along its path, or a sequence of shapes getting smaller, drawing you back into the distance. Even the implied action in a figure, like a runner or dancer, creates a sense of visual flow. It guides your gaze through the whole composition.
Okay, I think I get that. What about repetition? Does that have a principle?
Definitely. Pattern. Pattern is simply the systematic repetition of elements. Lines, shapes, colors, forms usually involves a specific motif, the thing being repeated.
Like wallpaper.
Exactly. That's often a regular pattern where the motif repeats predictably, like bricks in a wall or tiles on a floor. But patterns can also be irregular, where the repetition is less predictable, more varied. Think about patterns in nature, leaf veins, anal prints, wood grain. Even your fingerprint is an irregular pattern.
Ah, right. And you mentioned a source had a project about this.
Yeah, it tied back perfectly. The suggestion was to pick a simple shape, a dog, a chicken, whatever, and just repeat it over and over, filling the page using those colors you mixed earlier.
That sounds fun, actually.
It's a great way to understand repetition and pattern hands-on. Repeating shapes and colors creates unity, order. It's like the visual glue holding things together. It creates a rhythm.
And the source also said, don't worry if the first one's bad.
Exactly. The artist sharing the project said her first chicken looked crazy, but they got better. You can paint over mistakes, add details later. It's about the process, the practice. Making silly monsters is okay. It reinforces the elements and principles through doing.
I like that. Practice, not perfection.
For sure. And that idea of rhythm is actually another principle itself. Rhythm.
Like in music.
Very similar. It's the organized repetition or alternation of elements, maybe alternating colors or shapes or lines, that creates a visual tempo, a beat. It gives the artwork energy, flow, helps your eye move smoothly. Think about Pete Mondrian's abstract paintings with those black lines and blocks of primary color. Very rhythmic.
Okay, so we have balance, contrast, emphasis, movement, pattern, rhythm. There's the one that sort of ties it all together.
Yes. The big one, unity. This is that overall feeling that everything in the artwork belongs together, that it all works as a cohesive whole.
How is that achieved? Isn't it just good art?
Well, yes, but how? It's usually a balancing act. You need consistency, maybe using a limited color palette or repeating certain shapes like we discussed with pattern.
Right.
But you also need variety, enough difference in forms or textures or colors to keep it interesting, to stop it being boring.
So similar enough to feel connected, but different enough to be engaging.
You got it. Unity ensures every element feels like it supports the overall message or feeling the artist is trying to convey. Nothing feels random or out of place.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot to take in. Elements and principles, the ingredients in the recipe.
Yeah.
So, what does this all mean for us, for the listener who's just curious about art?
It means understanding this stuff isn't just for artists or critics. It gives you the tools, the language to analyze, appreciate, and talk about any visual thing with way more depth.
So instead of just, I like it or I don't like it.
Right. You can say why. You can point to the strong contrast, or the asymmetrical balance that creates tension, or the implied texture that draws you in. You start to see the choices the artist made.
It's like learning the grammar of seeing.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It gives you a framework. You notice the deliberate decisions, from how they mixed that specific shade of blue to how they used negative space in a logo. You see how every choice adds up to the final impact.
You're not just passively looking anymore.
Exactly. You become an informed participant. You can engage with art, design, advertising, photography on a whole new level.
So the takeaway is, start looking differently.
Pretty much. The next time you encounter any visual information, could be a painting in a gallery, could be a photo on your phone, could be a website layout, an ad. Just pause for a second.
And try to decode it.
Yeah. Think about these things. What elements are being used? What principles are organizing them? How is color affecting how you feel? What kind of balance is there? Where is the emphasis?
What's guiding your eye?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And maybe ask, what story is being told here? Not just with the subject matter, but with the actual visual language itself, the building blocks, the arrangement. What's the deeper message embedded in the art itself?